Part 2. I hid under my abusive mother's back porch. I found my deceased father while I was down there. I had never seen a grown woman turn pale before. Many things became confusing from that moment on. I remember being taken back to my house where there were many police cars and people around. The back porch was surrounded by yellow tape, and someone was taking away a black bag while my mother was handcuffed. After that, I went to live with my grandparents, Sheriff Joyce and her husband. I tried to ask what had happened and who Leo was, but I was always silenced. I was too young to know, but life got much better. Grandma was the best woman I could have hoped for in my life. We went out on weekends to the movies where she would let me have a giant soda even though I had to go to the bathroom halfway through the movie. When I asked if I could drink at 13, she let me try a beer. I spat it out and never touched it again. She never judged me for my love of art, letting me paint my room several times over the years. I felt safe by her side. She never raised her hand against me. When I turned 16, Grandma took me back to my mother's house. Everything had been torn down, but I could still see the yellow tape wrapped around some trees faded and torn. We sat together in the back of her truck. She opened a beer and drank half before taking out an orange soda for me. After drinking, she told me that Leo was my father. Luckily, she didn't tell me while I was swallowing. My father? I asked confused. Your real father. The man who lived with your mother was not your father. My grandmother took another beer. Leo was my son. I loved him so much, but when you were about 6 months old, he disappeared. My stomach sank. My mother just imprisoned him under the porch? I asked, starting to feel sick. Grandma took a deep sigh before leaving the beer unopened. It's something I could never understand. Leo told you to find me and that he loved crosswords. Right? He kept me warm that night. I probably would have died frozen if he hadn't been there. I was a dumb kid, even I knew that. My grandmother was silent before opening the beer and drinking it all. Alex, Leo was dead all the time. He was dead when we found him. There were only bones left. The specialists confirmed it, and your mother confessed to what happened. They had a fight, and she pushed him down the stairs. He broke his neck. She clenched her fists. I knew she had something to do with his disappearance, but I never had proof until you walked into my sheriff's office covered in dirt and told me he was under the porch. I was in shock. I couldn't breathe. All I could do was nod, but I saw him. He was alive. He had that butterfly necklace. I remained silent when Grandma took a small evidence bag out of her pocket. It was the necklace. As I looked at the now empty lot, the cold air seeped into my skin, a deep fear creeping into my bones. Grandma started the car, her expression somber and unwavering. It was then that I noticed something out of place in her expression. Something that reflected my own fear. Grandma, I said, swallowing hard. What is this? She took a deep sigh, her fingers drumming on the steering wheel before finally responding. You said Leo, your father, kept you warm that night. She seemed to be struggling with something, her words caught in her throat. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, she turned to me with a pale face, her eyes full of concern. Your father wasn't the only one your mother buried under that porch, Alex. My heart pounded in my chest. I felt a chill run down my spine as I looked at Grandma. My mind unable to comprehend what she was saying. What do you mean? I choked on the words, my throat dry. Are you saying that I choked on the words, my heart pounding. Are you saying there are more people under the porch? She simply nodded, a tormented look in her eyes. At that moment, the fear I had felt amplified, enveloping me like a suffocating shroud. Leo wasn't the only one. There were other men my mother had betrayed, deceived, and killed. My grandmother opened the glove compartment as she explained. She claimed it was a tradition. She tried to explain it to me, saying it was some kind of ritual. I didn't believe her until we discovered she was serious. That cursed our entire family. I saw tears in her eyes. She took out a gun wrapped in a towel. I began to tense up. Grandma, what are you doing with that? Alex, it's only a matter of time before you become just like your mother, and I become just like you. I saw a tear run down her cheek. She put the gun in my hand and whispered in my ear, pull the trigger so I don't have to. I'll go right after.